Hi guys, my name is Paige Brown and I'm excited to present to you Totally Radical Libraries and Art in the Streets. This is a community outreach program to reach the unhoused. As I was doing my research, these are the words that I probably saw most often or used most often to find articles. They seem pretty straightforward, but now you know. The next few slides that we're going to go through are pretty factually dense, so I'm just going to touch on some of the highlights and say why I think that they're relevant to my presentation. In a study done by the Los Angeles Times, 25% of the homeless who were questioned self-reported suffering from mental illness, and then 30% from substance use disorder. I think we can all admit that that is actually an enormous amount of the homeless population. That's a quarter to almost a third of the people are suffering from one or both of these things. And that's, that is a number that is quite daunting. As we see countywide, the unsheltered population has gone up by 14%, while the number who are able to find shelter or a temporary home of sorts has actually gone down. So these numbers are pretty overwhelming, and as we see this population grow, I think we can all say that it can feel a little defeating, and we're unsure of how to conquer these difficulties, especially as we see there is a huge mental health crisis going on. This study was done sort of in the midst of COVID-19 to sort of predict what they think will happen to people's depression should an economic recession continue. And I think we can see by the number of unhoused growing, the economic recession is continuing. And this sort of thing, economic recession, has been associated with increases in the prevalence of psychological distress, anxiety, depression, substance abuse disorders, and suicide and suicidal behavior. I would imagine it would be very hard to suffer being homeless and not feel an amount of distress, anxiety, or depression. So I wanted to develop something that helped these people just, anyone find light in their day if possible. But why did I develop it at the library? Great question. Since COVID-19, a lot of my research has said that libraries have become a huge point of information for people seeking health information and health resources. Obviously, that does not mean that libraries are becoming some sort of medical center, although I do think like a partnership with a clinic would be exciting if difficult. But this number sort of astounded me. 42% of patrons report using libraries' digital resources to search for health information. So that's almost half of the people who are using our internet access are using it to find out information about their health. And as the economic recession does continue, I think that we will see more and more people don't have access to internet. That's something that's going to have to drop. And then I chose the Los Angeles Central Library because I guess go big or go home. Obviously, it is located very close to an enormous homeless population in LA on Skid Row. It might be very difficult to manage, but I still think get them where they are, I guess. So art therapy is a wonderful resource for people. It has been found that in addition to regular therapy, people saw a decrease in symptom severity and alexithymic characteristics. That is a very hard word to say sometimes, and I'm pleased with that one. And what are alexithymic characteristics, you ask? These are characteristics that signify a personality construct representing difficulty in identifying and expressing feelings or emotions. And people who have such characteristics have an externally oriented way of thinking, which means that they're just not good at accessing those feelings that are living inside them, and they frequently just take things out on the external world rather than looking into their own internal world. And I think that this is a wonderful way for people to start to feel confident in themselves and find something that they are good at, and that builds self-esteem, dignity, pride, all of these things. So what is my event? My event is the Tent Art event, which I would hope to grow to be host to various artistic mediums. I think that you want to have something for people who don't feel confident in their drawing ability. Maybe they can do something, or maybe, their hands are kind of messed up. You want to have something for those who can't do this, they can do that. So I don't want to limit it to just paint or something like that. I want it to be broad. I would like it to be hosted bi-monthly because I think you don't want people to sort of forget that it's happening. And I think, 2 weeks, every couple weeks is enough for people to look forward to without it being too overwhelming to the library itself. Speaking of the library, I think it should be outdoors. Obviously, the outdoors are accessible to everyone, but on top of that, I think it's nice to keep the library quiet and clean, whereas art can be kind of loud and messy. And hopefully, in my dreams, everybody's having a great time and some shouting is happening in a happy way. I would advertise this specifically to target those who are unhoused living around the library, but I would want it to be open to anyone. That's another great thing about the outdoors, is that people who are maybe walking on the sidewalk, if a lot of people are doing that in LA, they can come up and join if they want to. I think we often forget that the unhoused are a part of our community, and to see people who are living in a sort of like normal structured community working together with somebody who is living this sort of free range lifestyle of being unhoused would be a wonderful sign of success to me. And obviously, get them in with the donuts and the coffee. That's a lot of like sugar and caffeine, which is a great thing. And, that's all I ever need to persuade me, oh, there's free coffee, free donuts, I'll be there. I also have worked in the coffee industry for about 6 years in LA, so I do have some good roaster connections. And I also have a friend who also works in the coffee industry, who works very closely with Feed the Streets. So I would love to bring my connections to this event and hopefully make it even more of a success. These would be counselor supervised events. The Southern California Art Therapy Association is a group of licensed art therapists in Southern California. And I would say, to me, it would be great if we could get 4 or 5, but art therapists are sort of few and far between. And if we could just have 1 or 2 there to help guide people in the therapeutic aspects of the art, while also being there to have maybe more in-depth conversations regarding a person's mental health that librarians, simply can't help with. So, what sort of options would we have for people to play with? I think fundamentally, I thought spray paint was the first thing that came to my mind. If you go around Los Angeles at all, you will know that spray paint is a huge form of artistic expression for people, and it does not require a very fancy surface for it to work and look great. So that is something where, it's affordable, it's accessible, and people know how to use it. You could even just use some cardboard that you have to make little plaques for people to work on. And then I said watercolors, they are affordable, and I also think that they have a wonderful ability to show some emotional depth. And they're just pretty. Why not? I also got this idea from my friend, which I'm very excited about. I don't think we could get Sean Petrie every time. I don't even know that he's local. But he does these things that have inspired other people to do the same, called on-the-spot poems, where you give him an emotional theme and then he types up a poem on his typewriter and gives you that poem for you to have. And I think that this is a wonderful way for those people who are suffering from the alexithymic symptoms to be able to get into touch with something deeper within themselves that maybe they're not seeing. I think a poem can be a really emotional and wonderful experience. Okay, so the cameras are kind of a dream. Obviously, this is probably our most expensive medium that I'm trying to push right now. But I think it would be great if we had some Polaroid cameras and film on hand for people to take pictures that they can take home with them from the event. A take home keeps people coming back and it keeps the memory alive. And then the disposable camera is also sort of a pipe dream, but I think it would be really cool if people could take, maybe we just have 10 or something like that people can take. And then if they come to the next event, they can bring back their camera. And if they come to the event after that, we can give them their photos. Or even, like maybe if they just come into the library and ask for their photos, that's a great idea. But it does build, I think as your supplies dwindle and you sort of see things escaping from you in life, having these tangible memories start to mean a lot more. I know as I've gotten older, my tangible memories mean a lot more. And then just to reiterate, yes, outdoors, the beautiful outdoors of downtown LA is where I would be hosting this, just because anyone can walk, roll, crawl, whatever they gotta do, up to the tents and just start joining. I wouldn't want there to be gates or anything to bar access. Hopefully, like I said, this could sort of mesh some communities together and really allow people to have fun and feel open and comfortable being themselves, and not like they have to inhibit their voice, or if somebody wants to smoke a cigarette while they're having their coffee and conversation, then they should be allowed to. I don't want this to be a too restricted program. In the future, what am I thinking for this? If it's a success, I would really love to be able to have a music therapy thing where people can play instruments. Maybe we have someone on hand for that. Or, if we could get iPads or something where people could learn to work with paint programs, something like Illustrator or Photoshop, which is both a skill and also an art form. I just want people to be able to express themselves, and that's in any way that I can possibly do so. How would I measure the success? This is difficult because, again, like somebody said in one of our presentations, it's not like this is a card counting situation where we're going to know by the amount of people we've registered. But I think that, I think you can see if people are showing up to the next one, and if resources are depleted and relationships are being built. I think that this is one thing you would just have to eyeball the success of this event. And, hopefully down the line, people would approach us about wanting to participate and, hey, give donations. A lot of these things are expensive, as I suggested. So we're really going to have to rely on people to give us money and give us some of their materials, and hope that they are willing to do that. I would promote the event through primarily word of mouth, let the word get out and the visuals get out, but I would like to create flyers that put an emphasis on art rather than the mental health awareness or therapeutic aspects of the event, because I don't want people to be too self-conscious about what they're getting into. And I would promote these with flyers in just a 3-block radius. That's going to cover a lot of people. And then down the line, I would love it if the flyers could be designed by a participant. Maybe we could have a collage station, which I didn't even put up, but that's a great idea, where people are designing flyers or whatever for the next event. And, it would be great if it were such a huge success that somebody is doing a mural or something. To keep the place secure, I took a cue from the San Francisco Public Library and thought that having health and safety associates would actually be most ideal. These are people who have experienced being unhoused or mentally unwell themselves, who are not there to enforce any rules, but are there to intervene if things get crazy. So I don't want this to feel like a prison art project. I want this to feel open and comfortable, and where people are being supported rather than regulated. No jailhouse vibes. You heard it here first. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I hope you've enjoyed it and think it's a good idea. Here are some of the articles I've referenced from Facts, and here are some of the photos, the sites for the photos that I used in this presentation. Thank you so much again.